Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know I review many photographic, audio and video related products, and I'd like to thank every one of you guys and girls that have subscribed to my channel to help me reach 10,000 subscribers. November 2021, I've gone over 10,000 subscribers. Now let's look forward to the next 10,000 to get 20, 30,000 and so on and so forth. So today we're looking at two cameras. It's a comparison, but not really a direct comparison per se, because they're two very different cameras. You actually know what cameras they are because it's in the title of the video, so a bit of a giveaway that, isn't it? But with two cameras we're looking at, just in case you haven't read the title of the video, is the iPhone 13 Pro, not the Pro Max, but the iPhone 13 or the 13 Pro, and then you've got your three camera modules on the back there. Great product, great piece of kit and a great camera. So it's that one, and we're comparing that with the Sony ZV-E10. The ZV-E10 APS-C body, interchangeable lenses, 24 megapixel sensor inside there. Fantastic little camera, very compact camera, no viewfinder, but then again the iPhone 13 Pro hasn't got a viewfinder, so that in itself is absolutely no issue. Articulating screen on the back, so you can do selfies, etc, or you know, great for vlogging, and you know, and all that kind of thing. And I've got fitted to it the 10-18 zoom lens. That's a great lens, again very compact, internal zoom in so it doesn't trombone, which is great if you're using it on a gimbal, because the balance will be correct regardless of what position the zoom is in. So that is the two cameras we're looking at. Now I wanted to choose these two cameras. Again, I've been asked by people to compare the iPhone 13 Pro with the ZV-E10. Now to most people, including myself, it's kind of an unfair comparison. A, because the ZV-E10 is a 24 megapixel APS-C sensor, much bigger, where the iPhone is, I think it's a 12 megapixel. There's actually three sensors in there because there's the three cameras. But the main camera I'll be using, which is the 26mm camera, that's what they call it a wide camera. That's their standard camera. I'm not sure which one it is out of those three actually, but that's got the bigger sensor in and the better sensor out of all three. So that'd be the one that these comparisons will be mainly targeting, is the wide 26mm lens with its bigger sensor. And I believe it is a 12 megapixel sensor. So in theory, the ZV-E10 should wipe the floor of the iPhone 13 Pro, but it doesn't. And this is where it becomes very interesting. Now, if you want to take great images with your iPhone, it is really important. If you look at the top right hand corner there, you can see there's an icon that's got RAW. If I tap it, it says RAW, and then if you tap it again, there's a line that's going through it, which is telling you it isn't going to take raw images. Now, I shall explain as we go through the video, if you're not familiar to RAW, if you've always just taken JPEG images, why it is really important to have your camera set to RAW if you want to take really nice images and you want to be able to edit them on your computer. Now, RAW basically means is you can actually get the raw data that the sensor is recording. So when you put it into your computer, you can actually make adjustments to that file a lot more than you can with a JPEG file, because JPEG files, all that information is all baked in. So it's very difficult to extrapolate, you know, your highlights and your shadows. You can do that very easily with raw files. So, and that's the same with the ZV-E10. I've got this one here. This will be set to JPEG and RAW. Let's just see. That'll be set to JPEG and RAW. And Sony's RAW files are called ARM files. So you can see there, you can either set RAW and JPEG, or just JPEG. And I've got it set to RAW and JPEG. So I've got flexibility there whether I want to use the JPEG files, but I don't. I use the RAW files. So that's basically how everything was set up. So now with the images, I loaded them all into Capture One Pro. Now, again, you can edit in Lightroom, Luminar AI, Luminar 4. There's a whole, range of different editing solutions to edit these files with. But what we're going to do is just quickly go through using Capture One Pro. Now, I will say that I'll put a link in the description of this video to one of my pages on my website where you can download trial versions of Capture One Pro, Luminar AI, Luminar 4 and what have you. It doesn't cost you anything. Download the trial versions and play with them. But if you do decide that you want to buy either Capture One Pro, or you want to subscribe to Capture One Pro, or you want to buy Luminar, use my coupon codes because you'll save money. So with Capture One Pro, for example, if you do decide you want to purchase that, use the code AVP10 to get 10% off your purchase price or your subscription price. And that is really helpful, isn't it? It's really good. I make a wee bit on that, not a great deal, but it helps me as well, helps me grow the channel, get me to my next 10,000 subscribers. I've already said thank you very much for helping me get there. So use a coupon code AVP10 to get 10% off. Or if you buy Luminar AI or Luminar 4, use the coupon code AVP to get $10 off. And that again, saves you a bit of money. And it's a great bit of software. And both those bits of software will edit these, DNG files and the ARM files. Now the DNG file is basically the raw file that comes out of the iPhone. So they call it DNG. I've got a feeling that was developed by Adobe. I'm not 100% sure, but it's a digital negative is what DNG stands for. And because it's raw, you can do a lot with it. So let's just compare a few images here. I'm not going into great details with comparisons, but if we look at before and after, that's what came out the camera. Both cameras. So that's what came out the iPhone on the left here, and that's what came out the Sony on the right. Let's make that a bit bigger so you can see that a bit clearer. So you can see, the detail is gone on, as it comes out the camera. But when you edit them, because they're raw files, you can bring the detail back in the sky, you can bring the detail back in the brickwork. I do find, the Sony file is on the right here. I do find the colours are a bit warmer. The colours on the iPhone seem to be a bit colder, but I think they're more natural though. The iPhone seems to be more natural, even though they look a bit colder. But again, raw files, you can edit them. You can adjust the colour balance. You can adjust the contrast, the brightness, and everything else related to that particular raw file. So, you'll get great images out your iPhone. And, you don't need to take around these bigger cameras. You really don't. But let's have a look at some other images. Now, if you look at this one here, compare these two images. Now, again, we've got it the other way around now. The Sony file is on the left. The DNG file, which is the iPhone file, is on the right. And again, after editing, it's brought more detail back into the sign. You see that sign is very white and washed out on, when it comes out the camera. But because they're raw files, you can edit them. So to edit them, it's pretty much the same with all bits of software. But let's take off the before and after. Let's start with the ARM file. We can, as I've already done, we can increase the exposure, decrease the exposure. But what we're looking at particularly is the highlights. And bring the highlights up, take the highlights down, bring the shadows up, and bring the shadows right up there. You can see, what a difference that makes. Just makes it pop more. It's just far more punch. But we're looking at here, again, a comparison between, these two images. And the iPhone's exceptional. You can read the text, it's sharp, it's gorgeous. So that's the Sony file. Look at that. So you can read that as beautiful, which is what you would expect. It's a 24 megapixel sensor. But look at the iPhone. That is incredible, isn't it? But that is still really sharp and really nice detail. But I will say, one thing to watch out for with iPhone files, and pretty much all mobile phone files, they tend to over sharpen them. Particularly the JPEGs are very much over sharpened. But what you can do in software such as this, I do it all the time. I do it with all my mobile phone images now, and that's why I enjoy using my mobile phone now that I know how to get the best out of it. So let me just bring that up, which is basically the iPhone image. So what you do is a little, it looks like a magnifying glass, but it isn't. It's got here distortion, sharpness and light fall off. We're looking at sharpness here, but when it comes out of camera, it's over sharpened. So I just take the sharpness right down to, well, to 0 basically. So there is no additional sharpening being applied to the image. And if you do that, you get really nice printable images from the iPhone. They're great. Let's have a look at another one. So let's have a look at this log here. Now, looking at these two, the iPhone image is tighter because on the Sony, as I said, I've got fitted to it me 10 to 18. So at 10mm, that's ultra wide. That's about 15mm in full frame terms, and 18 is about 25, isn't it? So it's still ultra wide to wide, and that's great. It's still really compact. So I obviously had that set to, you know, ultra wide, if that, you know, is the right terminology. And again, I can bring down the highlights. I can take the exposure down. I've already taken the highlights down, but I can take the exposure down further if I really needed to. Bring the shadows up. A lot you can do with it. If we look at the before and after, because I've already played with this one. That's what came out of camera, and you can see the highlights are completely and utterly blown out, you know. But scan this over to the left, you can see it's brought the detail back in. If we look at the log on the Sony file, and we look at before and after, look, completely blown out, but it's brought the detail back in. But again, because I've used a raw file, we do the same again on the DNG file. You know, that's even more extreme. You know, there's no detail in the top part of that log whatsoever up here, no detail up there whatsoever. But because it's a raw file, I brought the detail back in. So again, what I'm just trying to say here, that to me it's obvious what I'm trying to say actually. The mobile phone technology these days is so good that you can rely on a mobile phone to produce some really, really nice images. Now, again, looking at this image here, you can clearly see here actually where the Sony file is warmer, the tones are warmer there than what they are on the right hand side, which is the DNG files coming out of the iPhone. But I think, based on the day, I got a feeling that the one on the right is probably just a little bit more natural. I think the brickwork might be more natural on the DNG file, but we can make adjustments here. Now again here, I think we need to take the highlights down on the DNG file. I haven't played with this one yet. Look, see there, it's brought the sky right back in. We can take the shadows up. We can give it a bit of clarity. We must remember to take the sharpness right down though. You know, sharpness has been taken down there. Let's take the sharpness. So that's the correct one for taking the sharpness down. Let's take the sharpness right down to 0. Because I mean, you see, you know, that's exaggerating it too much, but we do tend to come out with camera far too sharp. So we take the sharpness right down to 0, but you still get a nice crisp, sharp brickwork. There's now detail back in the sky. And again, on the Sony file, we don't need to take the sharpness down, but we definitely need to take the exposure down a bit. Take the highlights down, bring the... Yeah, the cloud colour is more bluer on the DNG file, i.e. iPhone file, than it is on the Sony file. That's how it's looking to me. So, you know, I'm liking the colours that come out of the iPhone. I'm really liking those colours, again, before and after, all washed out. Now more detail and clarity. I mean, I can do a lot more to this than what I'm doing here, but there's no point in this demonstration. So again, you know, and the fact that the iPhone is only 12 megapixels compared to 24 megapixel, they're still printable, easily up to 10 by 8, get some really nice images, great for the internet, websites and what have you. So, you know, do we really need need to stress over having expensive camera gear when you can go out. I know the iPhone is expensive, but it's relative to what other things are on the iPhone. So it isn't really that expensive what it can do, is it? You know, again, the top of the range Android phones, they're not expensive for what they can do. So I'm not going to go through any more, you know, any more of these. They're all, you know, much of a muchness. What I will do though, I will put all these images onto one album on my Flickr page. Now, Flickr is great because you can see them a lot clearer, and you can, you know, go through them at your own, you know, at your own speed rather than watching them on the YouTube video. I'm not going to put them all on my YouTube video anyway. So have a look at them on Flickr and see what you think. And also with Flickr, you can see the metadata, so you can clearly see, you know, what apertures we use, what shutter speeds we used, etc, etc. And that's why I like using Flickr. So take a good look at them on Flickr. And also, as I said, don't forget to download the trial versions of Capture One Pro, which is what we're using here. This is Capture One Pro, you know, and Luminar AI. They're both, you know, I use them both. They're really, really good bits of software. Again, you know, let's just take down, I could go on with this forever. Let's just take the highlights down. That look brings the just taking the highlights down. Let's bring so much more detail back into the sky. Bring the shadows up. Bring more detail in the tree. We need to remember it's a DNG file. Take down the amount of sharpening, but we still get, take away that, a really nice sharp image. The other thing that I've also noticed with using mobile phones, the keeper rate is higher on my iPhone than it would be on any of my other cameras. Not for sports, not for wildlife, but I'm talking general purpose, sort of family type, well, I almost said snaps, but family type images. And the keeper rate from the iPhone is really high. Probably, almost certainly, because it's a much smaller sensor. So it hasn't got so much hard work to do, whereby obviously the ZV-E10 is a bigger sensor. So there we go. I hope you did find that useful. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so, and hit the like button if you like the content of this video. Really, really appreciate that. Don't forget to take a look at the software. Take a look at my Flickr page. That'd be really awesome. So thanks very much for watching, and please subscribe. Help me get to the next 10,000 to reach 20,000, 30,000, so on and so forth. So there we go. Thanks very much. This comparison, there is no conclusion. It's entirely up to you guys and girls. You know, what you prefer to use and what you think. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I'm definitely saying that mobile phone photography is getting better and better, and you can get some really nice images, but do remember to shoot raw and not JPEGs, or raw and JPEGs if you want to, but make sure you shoot raw so you can edit them when you get home, because that will really make a big difference to the quality of the image. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching, and enjoy the channel. I don't know why I've done that actually, but thanks very much for watching. Enjoy the channel. What I'm using today, just so you know, I've got the Panasonic S5 with the 50mm f1.8 lens as my close-up shot over there. It's in APS-C mode as opposed to full frame mode because the camera's a bit too far away. I've got my Blackmagic pocket cinema camera here, which is me generic shot, wide angle shot. I've got my Sony ZV-E10 picking up the tight shots of the products, such as my ZV-E10, and then I've got my computer here going into channel 4 of my Atomos. You can see it here, my Atomos Xcast, I mean Ninja 5 and Xcast, great products, and I'm using that a lot for producing the content for my YouTube channel. Just saves me having to post edit afterwards. So although I still do that because I drop in various shots and graphics and what have you. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers for now. Bye.